Hey, Tony here with Salt Strong, and in this video I want to give you some tips on throwing a cast net from your kayak while standing up. So first things first, you need a kayak that is very stable enough to stand up in, and you have to be very comfortable with standing up in it, because when you are throwing a cast net from a kayak, your balance starts going off, your center of gravity changes, and you're throwing weight off of your kayak. So the weight distribution changes a lot, so you need to be very comfortable with balance. So practice on your kayak standing up. You could do it in a lake or anywhere that is a little more safer to test out standing up in your kayak and throwing your cast net from it. Also practice actually throwing your cast net, not just catching bait, but just throwing it from the kayak and getting used to it that way. Now, the equipment you're going to want to have, I use a 6-foot cast net. It just is big enough but not too small, and it's easier to manage on a kayak. I also throw a 5-foot, just depends on what I'm trying to catch. If I'm going for some bigger mullet, I like to have the 6-foot net. Smaller mullet, 5-foot gets away with it, and even a 4-foot. So what I like to do is have the net ready to go. Now when you are on a kayak, time is money, because if you get on a school of bait and you're drifting, you can run over that school of bait, or you might get blown by and not have your net ready in time. So the method I like to use when throwing the net is the method where you put a piece of the net in your mouth. Now, a lot of people don't like to do this, but it's the quickest way that I use to get the net loaded up and ready to go, because all you simply have to do is get your rope coiled up, grab the net halfway down, make sure it's not tangled up, put a piece in your mouth, reach down about arm's length, grab a piece of the net, and hurl it out. Now, that is the quickest way to get it set up. Also, in addition to being ready to go and quickly get set up, I use this holster for my paddle and a push pole, but it also works as a way to hold your coiled up line, so you're not wasting time having to coil up your line, grab your net, and get it going. So what I like to do, get the line coiled up, and then I will put it in a holster. Just set it in a holster like so. It's ready to go. So when you're paddling around, standing up paddling, get on a school of bait, all you have to do, grab the horn of your net, get it in there like so, mouth it, and launch it. Quickest way to get set up. So you'll want your net, your holster, if you have it. If not, it's fine. You can get away with just coiling up your rope every time. And you'll also need a bucket, put your bait in. And one extra item that I like to use is a rain jacket. This is helpful because it helps keep your shirt dry when you are throwing a net, because you are swinging around a lot of water. So the shirt definitely, or the rain jacket definitely helps in keeping you dry. Even though you are in a kayak, you're gonna get wet. It's nice to stay as dry as possible. So rain jacket definitely helps when you are throwing your net. Another thing you want to consider when throwing a net from your kayak standing up is be aware of your surroundings. If you have anything set up on your kayak behind you, such as rods and rod holders, or even in front of you, if you have a rod holder down there, you're going to want to get those out of the way. So you can see I have my rods and rod holders set up on the left side of my kayak. They're out of the way because I load up the net and swing it to my right side. So I keep the right behind me clear so that the net doesn't get hung up on it. And also, if you have a rod holder up front like so, you're going to want to remove that. That way your rope and your net doesn't get hooked up on there. So just keep in mind to keep those things out of the way. Also, if you have a seat that folds, you may want to fold your seat down when you are throwing the net. Again, just to keep stuff out of the way when you are loading that net up, swinging it backwards, and going to throw it. The last thing to be aware of when you are throwing your net from your kayak standing up is if you are anchored up, you want to make sure you're aware that when you throw your net, your kayak is going to move back and forth a little bit. So you need to be prepared for that little jolt you might get when you do throw your net, because your kayak's going to give some slack in the line and then it's going to tighten up. So just be aware of that so you don't go falling in. I've actually done that before, threw the net, and as soon as I went to go start pulling it in, I got a jolt from the kayak and in I went. So just be aware of that, and also be aware that when you are pulling in your net, you're going to be dragging yourself if you aren't anchored up. So just keep that in mind as well. Now I'm going to go ahead and get on the water and show you some footage of actually throwing the net from your kayak. When searching for bait, I like to keep the net laid out in front of me on the front of the kayak. That way it's out of the way and doesn't get tangled up. First, you will have to coil up your rope. Now your rope should be attached to the arm on the side of your body that you would be swinging the net back on. So if you swing back on your right side, the rope should be attached to your right arm. Next, you want to make sure the net's stretched out, not tangled up. Then reach down with your hand that has the rope coiled up, grab the middle of the net. Then using your free hand, grab the lead line, place the line in your mouth. Then reach down again, arm's length in front of you, grab the net. You want to rear back, keep your knees bent, and then launch the net forward. Once you've emptied out your net, it helps to stretch it out, shake it out, make sure there aren't any tangles in it, and if you need to move on to find more bait, place the net up in the front of your kayak out of the way of any tangles. Also, if you have the belt holster, you can put your coiled up rope in the holster. That way, when you do find bait, you can just grab the rope, grab the net, and you're good to go. Here's another angle showing how the holster helps in having the net ready to go and quickly get it set up. A simple tip if you find yourself out of range to throw your net is to just simply put the net in the water and drag yourself along. This helps because you don't have to put your net down and grab your paddle and have to reset your net. This is where you're going to need your bucket. You'll empty your bait into the bucket, just place the lead into the bucket, pull up on your net, empty them out into the bucket. That way if you have any grass or any debris in your net, it keeps everything confined into the bucket. That way you can pick your mullet out and put them in your bait bucket, and you can dump all the debris and everything back into the water without making a mess of your kayak. So that wraps up these tips on throwing a cast net from your kayak standing up. And if you have any questions, please feel free to leave a comment down below. And also go to saltstrong.com and check out our insider membership. What this gives you is some detailed fishing reports all around the area, and also product reviews, some really good fishing tips, and some pretty sweet discounts on some gear. So be sure to check that out. Until then, I'll see you on the next video.